I'm sorry, not thoughts, stories worth telling. And today we are live with Lana Paul. And man, Lana's awesome. In fact, I think that she's referred to me as her spirit, kindred spirit, for both myself and Scott and Dr. D. Um, we appreciate you so much, just who you are, what you do, and all of that. And if you wouldn't mind just kind of making a quick introduction and just kind of telling us about who Lana is and what does Lana do?
Well, thank you, Patrick. I appreciate being here and having the time with you. I find that to be very special to me. So appreciate the invitation. Yeah, my name is Lana Paul, and my company is Lighting the Way. I have a couple of teenage daughters, so soon to be an empty nester, which is a big deal in people's lives.
Yes.
when we get to that point. But Lighting the Way, I'm a coach, and I help people move through the things that have happened in their lives, the emotional things, the emotional reactions to things that have happened in their lives. And so it doesn't really matter what has happened. We use the same tools, and it's really fun to be able to shine some light into a person's life and give them hope that they can actually start to feel good again.
Yeah, and it's such a needed type of thing right now, and it takes a special person to be able to do it with compassion, right? And all of those things. So thank you so much for what you bring and what you do and how you're helping people. It's incredible. As kind of, as you're pivoting, the business to kind of go, maybe more possibly digital or kind of help in some other ways and things like that. What have been some of the challenges that you've seen from COVID that are maybe still lingering effects right now, and how is that impacting people?
Oh, well, in every way, actually, I think in a lot of people's lives, because this last year has been hard, and it's been hard on all of us in different ways and at different levels. And I think that what it's done is, one, we didn't really know how to deal with what we were feeling and what we were going through. But two, when things have happened to us in life, if we did not know how to process the emotion around it, then it stayed inside of us. And it's gone dormant. And so what has happened in this last year is that the pandemic has woken up those losses from years ago that we maybe thought time had healed, which that doesn't happen. And so then here we are, and we're beginning to open up again, right? A little bit more, and it's a little bit more normal. Yet we have all of this kind of alive inside of us, that those feelings of loss and numbness, and that doesn't go away. So just because we're opening up again doesn't mean all of that has gone away.
Yeah, I can only imagine, like being somebody who has gone through a lot of mental health issues over the years, right? And to be able to get to where I'm at is definitely a product of trying to learn how to sort those and cope with those. And, it's not like they just kind of go away. Sometimes they're just kind of suppressed or dormant, or at least you have a better understanding of how to cope with it, things like that. Right. So as we're starting to opening back up and see some of these things, do you have any maybe tips and tricks of things that maybe we should be able to maybe include, or some things that maybe we should be aware of as we're starting to kind of go back out?
That's a good question. I think that you use the word, and I think it's awareness. And I think that if we could just become aware in our daily lives, when we are, there's a couple of things. If having reactions to situations, if we could get curious about that within our own self, and um, and start to look at, what's going on, what did that remind me of, or where did that take me back to?
Mm.
So that just that simple bit of awareness is beneficial. And the other part of awareness is if we find that we're doing certain things, like going out a lot or partying a lot or still Netflixing a lot, or, doing things in a more extreme way, that's a good sign that something else is going on. So again, it's developing that conversation with ourself of what's happening.
I see. Okay.
And what's happening when I'm still having 2 drinks a night. When we're back to normal, then why am I still having 2 drinks a night? Things like that.
So you think a lot of the and maybe the habit forming things tend to stick a little bit longer than and is a good sign or indicator that there may be some lingering effects or some things that people are dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's awesome.
Either that, or maybe still having a night where maybe you do a Netflix binge, and it's not just because the show was great. You just somehow lost yourself in it, and it went on for hours. Well, sometimes it is just because you wanted to do that. But sometimes it's showing you that there are things you aren't really dealing with in your life.
I see. Okay. Well, it's again that awareness piece to kind of maybe make a decision, based off what you're seeing and things like that. So yeah, well, thank you so much. Patrick Massey from Hype Designs says, "Hope you all have a blessed day. Thank you so much for stopping by." Jared out from Michigan says he added the CC, so I guess the captions are showing up on Facebook now. That's a new feature. I don't know. So I don't know if that's something that is directly through Facebook or just the interactive through Restream, but very cool to see because I know that a lot of times people are scrolling, and if, for me, I often have my stuff down on mute. And so I just kind of watch and I'll read the captions and things like that. So it's good to know. Thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in. If you guys are watching this, we just asked you to type in hashtag light. If you are interested in connecting with Lana, have some additional questions about what she does. And we're just kind of really touching the surface here. She also has a Facebook page, facebook.com/Lana Paul Grief. And it's her page, so you'll see the logo for Lighting the Way up top. You'll see Lana's picture and basically talking about coaching and grief recovery. And again, maybe you're going through some stuff and you're not comfortable posting it in the chat. That is perfectly fine. I've tagged her in the video so that way you can reach out directly or, again, reach out on the business page. Again, we also want to create and foster still that safe environment for anybody that's tuning in as well. So, Lana, can you tell us a little bit as to what made you kind of go down this path of maybe specifically grief counseling and things like that versus maybe an all-encompassing type counseling or, whatever. What kind of made this your niche?
I was led, I think, to grief recovery. And what happened was I went through a divorce in 2012. And at the time I went through the divorce, I had done a lot of counseling, and I thought I was doing really well in life. Like, I felt great inside and out. I had worked through, things like related to my dad, etc. And so the divorce happened, and then I began to date a little bit. And what happened was I kept finding men that were repeating. It was repeating patterns is really what happened. And I was so shocked because, like, I was doing great. I should have not been having those experiences. I healed, and I should have, in my opinion, I should have been attracting healthier relationships, right? But that wasn't happening. And so I had a really good friend having coffee with her one day, and she's listening, telling her about, the latest, right? And she said, "Have you heard of this book, this grief recovery handbook?" And she said, "You really need to study it. You need to go through these steps." And so I went home, immediately got online, and that's exactly what I'd been looking for to do as my business.
Mm.
Because I was always drawn to what is going on inside of people that it has affected them to where then they have to seek out help. Like what is that? What's the root? I always wanted to know that. So I signed up to be trained right away, and went to training. And sure enough, they guided me to work on my dad, which I was like, I've done all that work, but I used this process and just revealed so much patterning in it that was translating from my childhood into my adult life, into my marriage, and then into further dating. And so it's kind of a long description of how that happened, but yeah, so it was patterns,
Mm.
patterns that my dad taught me, that eventually came around, um, where I needed the work, and then I knew that was the answer. That's how I wanted to help people.
It's really interesting, I think, the psychology of the human body, the human psyche, the emotions that kind of get thrown around like a tetherball, but going back and forth,
Yes. Yes.
And so I think I find it really fascinating that how you help people is you kind of go back to uncover a lot of those things, and I know that you and I had briefly talked about kind of my situation, right? About how I didn't forgive my mom for abandoning me at such a young age, and I held that, and I tried to find other ways to kind of make up for it. I reached out to her to give her the opportunity to be a grandmother to my son, when he was born. And I
Yeah.
thought for me that was closure for me, but really it wasn't. It was me just basically kind of reopening more wounds and getting angry about it, and even years later, so it is interesting to kind of see how people go about those things, and really cool that you're able to kind of help do that. And um I don't want to give away the farm completely in regards to what you do, because it is truly important, but you know um what are some of like the greatest success stories, or maybe the proudest moments that you've had in doing what you do? And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be specific, but just kind of some of those things that keeps you going in regards to knowing that you're on the right path and that this is something that you continue to love to do, and why.
Thank you. Well, every single person I work with is my reason why.
Mm.
I'll just say that. It is so amazing to see the life coming back into a person, as they take the steps, and they physically change. And I'm not kidding when I say I see the life come back into them.
Mm.
It is, I should take pictures for them because you can see it from week to week. So that is special just by itself. But I've had, when I've had a couple of times where one person had something really horrific that she needed to forgive, but she couldn't see the path how she could ever do that. And she was very skeptical, did not believe she was going to be able to do it. But she was willing to try, but really skeptical up till the moment when she finally was able to step into forgiveness. And it really did feel like a miracle to her
Mm.
because it was a horrific thing.
Sure.
And it's moments like that, and for her it was a really big thing, but it is for everyone when they are able to step into the forgiveness of whatever's happened to them. It's big.
I love that. And I I know the self reward that you get when you know that you've helped somebody through something, right? And the natural human spirit is wanting to have a sense of purpose,
Mhm.
So when you fulfill that and you know that you're a part of that, and to see that growth, right? Very few things that we do we get to see the tangibility results unless we're spending money, right?
True. Right.
So from that aspect, to basically kind of see that tangibility of the transformation,
Yeah.
and to know that you made an impact. So that's so awesome. I love that, and I built my sphere of networking and business and all those things to be able to kind of have that, so that way people can rely on um, having truth, and having that spirit of like, well, like I want to know who I can talk to about this, or I want to know who's your go-to for this, because it's hard to trust. It's hard to find somebody. And why is it that you seem to be surrounded around all the people who are trustworthy or like-minded, and even my brother used to tell me that. He's like, you're always surrounded by good people. He's like, so that's how I know that you're a good person. And it was
Wow.
so weird because I never thought about that.
Yeah.
It was just basically, that's just who I hang out with. That's who I'm attracted to. And, that's where I like to spend my time and energy, with like-minded people. And so I never realized that, um, up until really this conversation, thinking back about when he told me that. So,
Yeah.
to be able to restore and kind of maybe give somebody a piece back of something that may have been taken away from them, or to have, because in some way, shape, or form, something was taken, right? Whether it was
Of course.
maybe their innocence, or their emotions, or whatever it is, and so to be able to kind of restore that back, I imagine has got to be a great feeling.
Hmm. Hmm.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always a great feeling, and especially when someone believes it was there was no chance.
Mm,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. And one of the things that we've talked about, not only do you help people who have gone through things, now you have a new piece that you're looking to introduce to kind of help, not only people who've gone through it, but how do we help those who are around the people who maybe gone through some things, and what does that look like? So you talked about now starting monthly webinars specifically for parents, to have that better communication and those skill sets for their children, correct?
Yes. Yeah. My first one is next week on the 13th,
Okay.
and it's online, and so parents can come no matter where they're living, and come on for an hour, and I'll present some material, but it will be a little bit of conversation as well, because we as parents have seen what's happened in the last year. Our children have been affected very, very deeply through the pandemic. You know, much of what our children lived for, right? Because if you put yourself in their stage of life and their development, they lived for school, right? And their friendships and their activities, their sports and their clubs and all the things that they're having lunch with their friends or recess. And so we parents have seen this, and sometimes we want to help, but we don't really know how.
Mm,
So
absolutely.
I can help parents learn some tools that they can teach their children, so then it's two generations having those tools. And
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. Where will people be able to sign up or check out these meetings or these webinars?
I have it on my Facebook page. And they'll be there monthly as well.
Okay.
And this month it's a link through Eventbrite, and you click on just sign up, and then you'll get a Zoom link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. I think that's so cool. The fact that you're going one step further for your clients and the people who are surrounded around them, and then also to maybe prevent, in some cases, so people don't necessarily have to go through some of this. My wife and I, we talked about how this is such a weird time. Um, because this is our youngest son's first time in school.
Okay.
And, to him, he's like, okay, well, this is not what I imagined school to be, right?
Right.
But, to him, it's kind of all he knows. So he's not
It's true.
necessarily like truly impacted by the piece, but it's been a weird up and down. It's like, okay, you're at home because somebody got sick. Okay, we're pulling you out because the school says so, but you got to go back, and so to him, it's like every day is so different,
Yeah.
and there isn't that stability piece. And I know I've heard some parents were say like, well, man, this year feels like it's such a waste, on the education side because my kid's not learning anything more. He's not being challenged or inspired. I'm
Yeah.
going crazy, et cetera, et cetera. So I love the fact that you've thought about that process, and all these different things to help parents go through this as well. Because again, a lot of times it's that parent kind of shrugs their shoulders and just kind of says, well, it is what it is.
Yes. Yes. We've all done that.
Yes. And so for now, we can come back and say, well, it's not, it is what it is. You need to reach out to Lana Paul and she will teach you all the things around that. So, um, I think that I'm curious to hear kind of your perspective in regards to how do you think that we can be better advocates for mental health? I know that we're in this society now where there's maybe more resources and more awareness than there has ever been, but yet the numbers continue to still spike
They
in
do.
regards to all of that stuff. And so if we have more resources, are we being more diligent with them? So from your perspective, you being in the industry, what are some of your thoughts? What are some of the things that maybe people like myself or individuals who are watching, what's something that we can do or that they can do to kind of just help from that perspective?
That's a good question. We definitely need to do better, I think. I mean, we are doing better. We are. And I think that we need to acknowledge that we're doing better.
Hmm.
Um, right? Because sometimes we don't give ourselves or our society credit. We really are doing better. We can still improve because, like you said, the numbers are going up. Um, and I think it comes down to creating some normalcy around mental health, about pursuing better mental health, that it's okay.
Hmm.
It's okay to have the conversation. It's okay. It doesn't mean you're broken. I think that's the biggest message. People believe there's shame and guilt attached still to getting mental health
Hmm.
assistance.
Yes. Yeah, I know for males especially, right? We
I
don't
know.
talk about it. We
No.
don't know. I mean, to
No.
admit some of that stuff, who knows what our friends may call us or retaliate with us or whatever, and that's the upbringing too, right? That you don't show any signs. It's a sign of weakness or whatever, right?
Yep.
And women, right? You're told as a little girl, you don't show anger, right? All these things. So, I think that's been a big pivot for, especially for Scott and I, to
Yes.
really talk about, what does that look like for today's society, right? I have a friend named Matt who's running a podcast called The Existential Man,
Okay.
and it,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, and it like the name already stands out, but at the same time, you're kind of like, is this the right time to launch that with so much emphasis on
Yes.
feminism and women empowerment? And again, I'm all for the empowerment piece. What I do struggle is that everything seems to get taken to the extreme,
I know.
right? And so he was talking about something called like man spreading. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, so you know how like oftentimes a lot of guys they'll sit in their chair like this and then they kind of have their legs kind of
Uh,
like spread out, so
yeah.
supposedly this is a thing now where we're taking up more space than what's needed. And there was a girl, I think a few years back, where she was taking acid and actually throwing it at men's crotches on the subway station because she felt so a certain way about it. So, it's tough to know anywhere of where it's going to be. Obviously, conversations, like I said, they tend to get one-sided, or people tend to get really passionate about things on Facebook versus things that maybe they could be doing to
Yes.
improve their business or their lives or whatever.
Sure.
So, as you kind of hear about some of these things, and maybe you're learning about some of that stuff from the first time, like, does that play a role into, you think, any of maybe some of the grief piece for people, and that mental health piece, and is that attributed also maybe to, based off of some of the stuff of, the pandemic or whatever, just in your thoughts and opinions?
Right. Well, we have become a very divided, opinionated, opinionated is not even the word, divided, very
Mm,
divisive um, culture at this point. So um, there's a lot of grief in that.
yeah.
Um, a lot of grief in that. That you can't be. I mean, we should all be able to be who we are, believe what we want to believe in through the lens of not causing harm, right? We don't want
Right.
to cause harm, but then it seems as if every day there's another way where we are living our life being true to us, but it somehow is causing harm to others, right?
Yeah, it's a weird spot, right? Because you're like empowering yourself, but somehow it leads back to you're offending somebody.
I know.
Right, and it's a weird spot. So is that something that comes up, or do those conversations come up, with your clients as well?
Yeah, they do come up. And the bottom line is that no one makes us feel any, we are responsible for our own feelings. Others are not making us feel. And so I think for us as individuals, if we can remember that, like like you were describing that one situation where the girl was throwing the acid, well, that he was obviously offending her, but was he in charge of her feelings? No,
No,
no.
no.
She, whatever happened in her own life, contributed to the the thoughts that were forming as a result of him sitting the way he was,
Mm,
right? She
mm-hmm.
could take responsibility for her own self instead of causing harm in reaction.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that it's just weird times that we're living in. It feels
It
like,
is.
um, and so again, that awareness of knowing that you're not the only one who may be going through something. There's a lot of power in that too,
There
you
is.
know. So,
There is.
um, anything else that you would like to share, either about some things that are going on with your business, time to either highlight, or also, I know that sometimes we use this couple of moments here, where we just kind of give you the stage to just really talk about anything that is maybe, something that's on your heart, or if there's anybody that you might want to thank or anything like that. Really, the next couple of minutes in this segment is really all for you. And so, is there anything in particular that you wanted to touch base on or anything like that?
Well, I owe so many people a thank you. So I don't even know where to start, but I'll start with um, I'll start with Jasper, who introduced me to you and to Scott, and very much appreciative of her and of you and Scott, and having that initial conversation, and for you to have me on today um, to be able to speak my message. And I visited with Scott this week, and we talked about this little bit, and that's fear, because
Yes.
he has no fear. He's getting his message out, and I've watched him over the months. And what I realized, well, I always knew that I had an immense amount of fear around public speaking.
Mm,
And so I started networking 3 years ago. I've had to work through this like nobody's business. And I thought I was doing well, except putting my voice out into the world, really out into the world, like beyond just one meeting here and there. And so what happened was I realized I was totally comfortable with my fear.
Hmm.
And I would say I planned to do a video, but then this happened or that happened. And I do believe things happen in the way they're supposed to. So I would say, oh, it wasn't meant to be today. Okay.
Yes.
And I was so comfortable and blind to the idea that I was living in fear. I had no idea. And kind of simultaneously of seeing you and Scott going out doing so much of highlighting people, and I was studying a book around confidence, and it turned into this fear on, it took me down a path of fear. And that's what it all came full circle to, where I realized what had been happening,
Hmm.
and that I had been unconscious to my fear. So so i so i thank you, and I thank Scott, and I think this book, and I had other supporters as well that helped me process through this, and I think that a lot of us can identify with having that fear of going out and speaking. But like Scott and I were talking, we have messages. What's
Yes.
happened in our lives has happened for a lot of reasons, but one of those is so that we can help others. But if, yeah, so
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Speaking of Scott, he's here. He says, "Let's go, hug the fear and embrace it." Um,
right.
you know, like I love Scott because, like you said, not only is he fearless, but what he brings is such a temperament that it has kind of feels old school, that is kind of gone by waysides, right? And a lot of times it is just that comfort, and he doesn't realize like that it's a gift to literally be able to be comfortable in the silence with somebody else.
Yes.
And Scott brings that energy, so we literally you could sit there and he could just sit next to you on the couch and you start feeling better. you know?
What an awesome gift.
Right, right. It's truly a superhero power that he has, and
Yeah.
the more you're around it, then you're just kind of like, I need to be around that more. How do I find that in other people? How do I find that within myself?
Hmm.
And so I love the fact that he is having these conversations not only with you but others, and really teaching people that there is a better way than what we've been doing, and that the things that we've been taught from at even a young age, that
Yes.
it's okay to go ahead and counter that. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to go against the grind, because if everybody's doing the same thing, going over and over, and nobody asks questions, then we're never going to get any better. So,
Hmm.
uh, Dr. G is in the house. Scott is a cool cat for sure. Obviously, we love Dr. G. We knew we saw Lana on his podcast not too long ago as well. So if you guys haven't, again, you can catch that either on Dr. G's podcast or on Lana's business page. I think I saw that earlier today up there still.
Yeah.
And you would never guess from watching it that that was her very first time
Very
being
first.
being live, and she did an awesome job. So
Thank you.
yeah, no worries. Um, so as you're kind of refiguring and kind of taking a different approach to fear, what do you think where do you think the results from that are going to be, and what does that look like, do you think?
I have to be aware of it on a weekly basis, because what happens when we have a familiar behavior, well, we'll put that sock on any day. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
it's just so comfortable. And so I can already tell you, like, I did a video. I had an intention to do a video the week, a couple of weeks ago, and I actually did it on that Friday where you and I were originally going to talk, but
Yes.
otherwise I would have not done it. And then
Hmm.
I was supposed to do it last week, and I didn't. But that's my goal. So again, I'm not living in fear, that I think, but still I think it's alive a little bit. So I have to be really aware to not let myself go down the path of fear,
Hmm.
because it's not serving me and it's not serving anyone.
Correct. And I think what you'll notice is that it gets easier and easier and easier to let go. And again, maybe it's just truly, maybe the live thing is not for you after you go through it, but you'll never know,
That's
right?
right.
Maybe you'll be like, why didn't I do this sooner? This is so much fun. I'm locking in so much more business because of it. Whatever it is. So maybe it's all the things, right?
Right.
Um, Again, what's really cool is that essentially a lot of business owners aren't taking advantage of the free resources that they have.
True.
So if you go and, I mean, you mentioned yourself, you're in a networking group, right? And more than likely you're paying some sort of fees or dues or paying in time, right? All of those things that are costly. And the
Yes.
goal for that is basically so that way you can have some sort of consistency. So that way you can have people in the group who support your business, and you all of a sudden go from not just yourself but other people talking about your business. And the way that it's supposed to work is that it's all reciprocated and everybody kind of benefits.
Yeah.
What we tend to see is that a lot of it is maybe people who are kind of cliquish. Sometimes you often find that people are maybe hurting your business and your brand more so than assisting or complementing. You
Hmm.
find that things kind of become one-sided. People don't have a true definition or understanding as to what does networking mean, because a lot of times it's like, hey, let's do the one-on-one. They meet up and they tell you and spitball everything, and then be like, okay, so, and they just have this expectation that you want to work with them. And the reality of it is that, like, I know everything about you, but you know absolutely nothing about
Yes.
me, right? And
Right.
so I know that this conversation, from that is it's not fruitful, because it's not a longevity piece in the process, much like anything else. Like, sometimes to be able to perfect a process, it takes a lot of trial and error. And a lot of people don't understand that because they paint this picture that it's, hey, we're in a networking group, we're going to grow,
Uh-huh.
you're going to grow,
Yes.
you but how much mental health or how much emotional health and your time does that take when you're trying to build something? And again, maybe other people's visions are, they just kind of coming through, and it's kind of like some, you just put your fresh garden together and somebody comes and tramples through it, and you got to kind of start all over. So I think that it's, oh, Scott says it's like crack doing the live videos. uh, so that is it is for a lot of people an emotional high. Especially, it can be fun to kind of like see the stats. Some people get very obsessed with the stats, and then they start living life or doing lives for likes instead of for the purposes, So,
Yeah.
but what's cool is that it's a huge outlet to be able to let people know. And again, maybe it's harder to talk to family, and that's always been that way in my opinion, at least for me.
Hmm.
But I have no problem telling strangers my story. Um,
Yes.
right?
True.
So it is a weird factor from that sometimes the things that you do, the things that you build, are not always in the way that you think that it's happening. But what's cool about a live or a video is that there's no way to kind of take that away from you. It's there. You don't know whose eyes are or is watching, but it is cool to know that people see the progress.
Yeah.
And so, my encouragement obviously would be kind of along the lines of Scott. Instead of thinking, just do it. That oftentimes overcomes a lot of the fear. You might trip and fall along the way. But again, I think that's going to help Lana light the way for others. Um, um, and showcase, a lot of that showcase not only to your friends and family, but also your clients, that you too have that growth mindset and that you too are also learning. And, it's kind of one of those things that it comes full circle. And I think it's a great process for everyone involved. Bye,
Yeah.
son. So, I think it's incredible to kind of see. And honestly, like, from the time that we met to even now, I see a lot of growth from within, for your business.
Hmm.
And it's going to be awesome to kind of go back like 6 months, a
Yes.
year, 2 years, to kind of see all those things. And Um, so for people who are watching this live, if you would like to connect with Lana again, hashtag light. That basically gives her authorization to know that you've given her the okay to just reach out to you. And I promise you, Lana's not going to haggle you and reach out
Yeah.
and basically go down your throat and basically say, "What's wrong with you? Come to my
No.
office." No, that's not how she is as a person. But what I think is important is that if you are somebody who acknowledges that maybe you want different results, if you are somebody who maybe feels like you don't have somebody to talk to and that the world is heavy, then Lana
Yeah.
is an excellent resource. And I think that obviously you've seen kind of her temperament, you see her heart on display in terms of how she just wants to help. And I think that, you know, true definition of crazy is what? Doing the same thing every day, hoping for different results. And so, if you're in a position or if you are somebody who is looking for different results, I think that she's an excellent resource to start with. Scott Brandt says, share and spread a great conversation. Someone needs to hear this. Hashtag be a friend, tell a friend. Absolutely.
Oh, I
So,
like that hashtag.
yeah. Yeah. I like that one. And so, if you are watching this, I highly encourage you to share this with somebody that you think is in need. Even if there's certain points, just fast forward or get the timestamp and let them know. Because what Lana offers, what she brings to the table is truly a gift that not a lot of people are taking advantage of, but a lot of people definitely need. So she gives much needed space. Yes, sir. So, um, all right. So I'd like to do a little bit of a different segment than kind of like maybe the pod decks or things like that. And so we just kind of ask a couple of questions. Some of them are completely random. Some of them are made up on the spot. What's nice is that it kind of breaks up the monotony, but it also allows people to kind of get to know a little bit about you as well.
Okay. Let's see
So,
if I do. Okay.
so what is your favorite animal?
Oh, wow. Um, my favorite, um, I think I would say, um, I love, I think right now my favorite animal would be deer.
Hmm.
Yeah. Not when they're eating my flowers, but all the other times.
They do. It is really. It is a thing of beauty to kind of see how they prance and run
Yeah.
around.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, and it's crazy because like, um, gosh, nature has a way of being able to show you so many different things that we don't think about. It has a good way to heal as well, but it
Hmm.
also has a way to kind of showcase and allow you to see things in a different light. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, that's great. Um, assuming that there is nothing to hold you back, kids, money, emotional attachments, responsibility, whatever, ideally, where would be somewhere that you would want to visit and what would you want to cross off the bucket list, or what is something that you could see yourself doing outside of what you do now?
Well, I would love to visit New Zealand.
Mm,
Um,
okay.
yeah, I've heard such incredible stories coming out of from others who have visited. Just what a pristine area that is, and the people are amazing. So I would love to visit New Zealand. Um, and honestly, outside of what I'm doing now, there isn't anything.
I love it.
I mean, there just really isn't. And I know you wanted me to answer something else, but I feel like this is my dream job, my dream. It's my. I think this is why I'm on Earth, is to help people and interact with people. It's all about the story, and I love the name of your podcast because it's all about the story and the human experience. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and what's cool is like, I remember one time, and ideally this is kind of where the title came from, is I remember reading somebody's poem where it basically said, I'm an empty canvas continuously rewriting my bad ending.
Oh.
And part of me was like, man, how dark and how deep is that? But you could really fill in that with so many different things. I'm a failure. I messed up. Things are bound to go wrong. People around me always die. Whatever it is, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because I ran through all of those emotions.
Yes.
And so I remember actually using that line in a piece of poem to help me as kind of like a writing prompt. So I remember it saying something like, I'm an empty canvas, consistently rewriting my bad ending with hopes that this turns into something worth reading.
Wow.
Right. And I think that was the very first line. And so I love the idea. But what's interesting really about this question is I think maybe all but one person really was in their ideal position. And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, right, I think that we have kind of a higher sense of purpose, or we have that calling that won't let us go
Yes.
no matter where we're at.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes, we get that where like people are like, honestly, I'm where I want to be,
Yes.
and so I think that if you were to ask maybe some of the 9 to 5ers, right, they may not get the same answers versus speaking with entrepreneurs and business owners. So again, you don't have to apologize for giving us a completely different answer at all. It seems to be much in line with who you are and what you do. And it's always fun to just kind of ask that question just to kind of see where it ends up. But again, most of the time, most of the people are like, I'm exactly where I want to be. So
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
um, okay, so those were kind of the two that I like to ask right up front. I have a probably about 5 or 6 just kind of completely random. I didn't pick these. These are ones that just kind of came up here on the list. Okay.
Okay. It's funny because I'm not the greatest at answering questions, but I'm here.
All right. So, how old were you when you realized that Santa and the Easter Bunny probably never actually knew one of each other in real life?
Oh gosh. That's funny. We've been having these conversations with my I've been having these conversations with my daughter.
Mhm.
It's
That-
funny. Yeah.
yeah.
I I have no idea the exact age. I mean, I can definitely, because I was a believer for a while.
Mm,
I mean, I did. Um, I don't know. I was probably, I'll say fifth grade. How about that?
okay.
I really don't know.
Yeah. That's such a random question. It's
It
pretty
is.
funny. And I'm like, I think probably today is when I realized that they probably did, because I never would have thought to put the two together in the same room. So,
Right. Right.
all right. So this one is a bit long-winded here. So if I give you $10 to go buy me chocolate milk and only cost $3, would you bring me all the change? Would you tell me it was actually $10 because I'll know that chocolate milk doesn't cost that much? Or would you buy yourself a drink as well?
Well, it depends on how well I know you, but uh, if I know you, I would probably buy myself a drink because that's what you would want me to do. So that's what I'll say.
Fair enough. Again, these are such random
I
questions, but
know.
I'm having fun with them. Okay. Oh, I think this one is telling of people for sure. How many donuts are you capable of eating in one sitting?
Oh, Patrick, I love donuts. I wish I was someone who hated the smell or the taste of donuts.
Oh man.
Okay, let's say two.
Okay.
It's probably more, but I'll admit to two.
Okay. No, that's fine. Um, I honestly have destroyed, I think, 8 in a dozen.
Yeah, I probably could, but
Yeah.
yeah. So
Obviously, I felt really sick afterward,
of
but
course, yeah.
I, I'm not afraid. Forget the fear. I've eaten 8 donuts out of 12.
There you go. Okay.
All right, and then okay, last one here. Let me just run through this list. Okay, what Oh, actually, how many Taylor Swift songs do you actually listen to on a weekly or monthly basis?
Oh my gosh, a lot. Again, I have daughters ages 17 and 19,
There you go.
and she really has been a staple in our household.
Mm,
It's we have listened to it crazy amounts, crazy numbers.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
And
I'm gonna have to
especially,
save this link. I like
especially
these
through
questions.
the pandemic, she's really helped in our family, in our household. Her
She,
music has made a difference. Yeah.
she's like a ghost daughter in your household.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for humoring me with kind of the oddball questions. It's always fun to just kind of go off the cuff and just kind of throw some stuff out there. You just never know what you're gonna get.
Yes. So
Um, but truly, honestly, like I'm thankful for your time, what you are doing in this world, and the fact that how you do it with a smile every single day. I know that sometimes it may be tough to hear and be in a position of trust where you're hearing people go through some of these terrible, miserable things, and I know that it probably takes its toll as well. So, thank you for being able to take that on, because a lot of people try to take that on unprofessionally. A lot of people try to take that on and then they just kind of end up absorbing maybe
yes.
some of those things and developing into their own issues. So, thank you for that. And last question, in all seriousness, not only for people that are in your tribe, like Jasper and Scott and myself and Dr. G, but for anybody who's watching this, people in Colorado Springs, people who are in networking, people who know you, if you decide to share this, what are some great ways that you think of that we can better support Lana Paul coaching and grief recovery, lighting the way? How can we help you?
Thank you for asking. I spreading the message that that it's okay to open up, to reach out and to have a conversation, because honestly there is no pressure, and I have so many conversations with people, and it's okay to talk. Like I'm a safe place,
Mm,
and I don't judge, and I also, while I get to listen to a lot of darker things, I also have fun. And so I think helping to remove a little bit of that stigma and that feeling of heaviness when you think of what I do,
mm,
that there's actually a lighter side. And so just being able, I think, people being able to communicate that to someone who is hurting, and that, and just to for them to not have the fear and just reach out, because they've suffered long enough. That's the thing.
mm.
Helping me spread the message that people have suffered long enough.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being a guest here on the Stories Worth Telling podcast. And guys, again, I'm going to plug Lana's information here directly into the chat one more time. Again, hashtag light to be able to go ahead and give her the thumbs up to go ahead and reach out to you directly. Posting her business page link immediately. Again, the little things help out quite a bit, guys. So maybe you're not in a position right now of needing some of the stuff that Lana does, but you still want to help support her, right? A like on the Facebook page, sharing the events and some of the stuff that she's putting out there. Again, we talked about the webinars. We've got one coming up on the 13th. So being able to do those things, all of those things go a very great way for business owners, but it also helps be able to share the message, to be able to get that awareness out there. This is the exact reason why we do this, is so that way we can share these unique stories that are worth telling and allowing people to be on this platform to share their story to maybe a reach that they wouldn't have had before. So do us a favor, go ahead and like and support Lana, connect with her. And Lana, thank you again for your availability and your time, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Patrick.